Today, we are going to show you the most common mistake growers make when they flip in the flower. If you don't know about this, it is costing you major yield and quality in your grow. We're going to show you what it is and how to fix it. But before we do, this video is brought to you by Real Growers Grow Dots, the easiest way to feed your plants. You mix grow dots in once at the beginning of your grow, and they feed all the way to harvest. You don't have to worry about nutrient burn, nutrient lockout. Grow dots do all the hard work for you. Check them out over at realgrowers.com. And while you're there, use coupon code Scotty420 to get you 20% off your first order of grow dots or anything in the store. That's Scotty420 for 20% off your first order. And come on, let's get back into it. You ready, High C?
I'm ready, man. So this one, when you first brought it to my attention, seemed a little bit intimidating, but then you showed me some charts, you showed me some calculations, and I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. So what are we talking about? You said if you flip into flower and you don't know about this, you're hurting your plants.
Yeah, DLI. And this one's been in the back of my head for a while, and I didn't realize myself how powerful it was, what a big deal it was, the big epiphany that happened. You ready? I'm going to share it with you.
Okay, let's jump into it.
A daily light integral is the amount of photons that are dropping down on your plants or dropping down in a specific area in an entire day. We all know about PPFD, which you take your little meter and you measure PPFD. That is the amount of photons, the little light raindrops that are falling down in a second. So when we do, there's a calculation to find your DLI where you times it by 3,600 seconds in an hour, and then how many hours in the day, and then you divide that by 1,000,000.
Nope.
I really think that is the formula. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so let's make it simple. PPFD, we measure that. That tells us how much of those light photons are hitting the top of our canopy at any given moment. So
Correct.
the PPFD is at that exact moment how much is hitting.
Correct.
But you're saying we also need to take into consideration how much accumulated PPFD has hit our lights or hit our plants throughout the whole day.
Yeah, raindrops is the easiest way for me to analogize this. But if you go take a cup and you put it out in the rain and you go, hey, in a minute, I caught this much, or in a second, I caught this much water.
That would be the PPFD.
Yes. Okay. So let me take that water and times it by how many seconds my lights are on, or how many that the lights are on. And that will give me a total number of photons, a total number of raindrops in there.
So holding the cup out in the rain all day, that's the DLI?
Yep, okay. Exactly.
So how much light photons in one moment versus how much accumulated light photons throughout the whole day?
Yes, and what's important is cannabis can only handle a certain amount of light photons per day. It has its DLI. It changes as the plants get stronger. Clones have less of a DLI. They need less light than peak flower or peak veg. Mm-hmm. But there is a specific amount of light. You can find DLI charts. We'll talk about them. And the idea behind this is too little light, too little DLI, then you're wasting a lot of potential. Too much DLI, you're either going to burn the plants or waste a lot of energy.
Okay. And I know that one of the things that we always talk about is a certain amount of hours of light during veg.
Sure.
And then we trick the plants to flipping into bloom by cutting down the amount of hours of light. So before we jump into that, how much light during veg, how much light hours, and then how much light hours during bloom?
Sure. And I can't believe I didn't understand this earlier, but 18 hours of light when you're doing veg. Some people use a little bit more. We're going to say 18 hours of light in veg. Mm-hmm. And then when you switch them down, you are switching that when you click over to flower, you're going to 12 hours of light. 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. That's our flowering period.
And that's because 12 hours of darkness, 12 hours of light mimics fall when it's time for the plant to switch over to get ready to be harvested.
Yep, short day plants. So that's when we go into our flowering period.
But we just cut out 33% of the light hours.
Yeah, 6, 12, 18. Now that's 12 hours of light is a third less than 18 hours of light. And so if I'm using my PPFD meter, I'm like, oh man, it's at 800 right here. I'm going to blast it up to 850 or 900 and I'm going to get great results. Well, that's how much light raindrops are falling on per second. but you just stopped it from raining for 6 hours, 6 more hours that day. So that's great. However hard it's raining is great, but it just rained for 6 less hours than it did yesterday. So that means you got a third less raindrops going on.
Or a third less hours of light.
Yes.
Okay.
But the same thing, it rained for a third less time.
Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, do I really need a third less light energy in bloom than I needed in veg, or do I still need that light energy?
As it ramps up, and do we have that DLI chart here? That would be great to look at right now. So that's where you can see at peak veg, the plant needs the most amount of light. You're at a DLI of about 55 there. And then take a look what happens, though. It goes down significantly.
Yeah, we cut out those 6 hours of light, and all of a sudden that light energy drops. But if you're like me and I didn't know about this, it's going to stay at that low level the whole way. But it's looking at this chart, I see that I need to increase that light energy without increasing my light hours.
You just lost a third of the amount of rain, a third of the amount of time that it was raining. So you need to dial up the intensity when it does rain. Mm-hmm. So you're going to start, and that's where it slowly rises on this chart, because you're down 55 and then you lower it down a third. You're down into the 30s. And then you've got to climb up slowly.
Why the slow climb? Why not just crank it up the next day when I switch over to 6 hours less of light?
Yeah, because it will burn the plant, or it will hurt the plant. I've turned my lights up too quickly, and it will definitely cause damage to the plant. So
okay, so an instant drop in the amount of hours of light is okay, but the intensity needs to slowly be dialed up. It looks like over like a 4 to a 6 week process of slowly dialing up the intensity.
Yeah, right around 4 weeks. I'd like to see you be up at the maximum DLI into the 50s by the time you get to week 4 to 5 of flower.
Okay, so I've got this calculator pulled up, and it shows the PPFD times the amount of hours in a day. I've got my PPFD for veg at about 800 PPFD.
Yeah, that's right.
And I've got 18 hours of PPFD at 800. And it's saying my DLI is going to be 51.84. That's kind of target what we're looking for.
Yeah,
around
52. They say 55 is about as high as you want to go. Don't forget, you can raise your PPFD a little bit, or you can raise your DLI, the amount of light your plants can handle, if you have CO2.
Oh, yeah.
So as you're playing around another 5 to 10 points, and this is, unfortunately, it's strain dependent. It's not exact, but it'll get you pretty close. It's a good understanding of it.
But we want to shoot somewhere around 50 to 52 DLI is kind of the target range.
This is great. As far as I'm concerned, 800 PPFD in veg is plenty.
Okay, now I'm going to switch this real quick. I'm going to go from 18 hours down to 12 hours.
I've already done the math. It's 35. You've gone from 52 to 35.
Yeah, if I stick at the 800 PPFD when I switch over to bloom, all of a sudden my DLI dropped all the way down to 34.56. That's a giant decrease.
That is a
of light energy.
Yes, so we got to compensate for that. So I just very quickly did 900 PPFD. 900 PPFD I've got at 12 hours, though, comes out to 39.
38.88.
There you go. I'm rounding here, man. So now let's go to 1,000. And we get 43. So we're slowly climbing up there. So if we can up our PPFD by 100 points or 100 units, maybe once a week or so. And you do have to, this is dependent on your plant. So you really do have to watch your plant. It is bad when you burn plants in early flowering. Oh, it's bad. It affects them.
Light burn, not nutrient burn.
Light burn, yeah.
Okay, so to get back to my target of around 50 and I'm doing 12 hours, what's your PPFD recommendation for those 12 hours?
I like to go up to 1,200. I think 1,200 is safe. There are strains that will handle up to 1,500. There's people that use CO2 and go up to 1,400 with usually they'll match the CO2. So 1,400 PPFD, 1,400 ppm of CO2. Man, that sounds confusing.
But using that 1200 at 12 hours, it gets us back up to 51.84,
Sure.
right in that target range.
Right.
Okay, and you said again,
Hey, by the way, that's not crazy math. That's just 12 is a third more than 8. So that's all you're doing.
so we're cutting a third of the hours of light out and increasing by 33% the intensity of that light.
So think about the raindrop analogy again. It's
More rain per hour.
more 33% more, I guess it would be, but you're getting 33% more rain in 33% less time. So you're winding up with the exact same amount of raindrops.
And again, I'm back on the chart over here. There's a big drop of light hours, and then that also hits a drop in the DLI, but then we slowly raise
Sure.
the DLI up until the point of harvest.
Yep.
All right. I know one of the members of the DGC mentioned something about instead of just slowly increasing the PPFD during bloom, he said something you can do during flower or during veg, which was kind of interesting. I wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, shout out to Mr. Puffin Stuff. A guy named Mr. Puffin Stuff actually has good information. He was talking about how at the end of veg, he starts going down an hour. So if veg is normally 18 hours. A couple weeks before he's going to flip to flower, he will go down 17 hours, but increase the intensity of his lights. So he is getting the same DLI in one less hour. And don't forget, plants need to go to 12-12 till they start flowering. So then maybe the next week he goes from 17 hours to 16 hours, and he turns the intensity of his lights up a little bit more again. Same DLI, but when he switches to flower, he's got
kind of a head start on that increase. He's already kind of slowly worked his way in.
Yeah, he might be at 950 or 1,000 PPFD, and the goal is to get to 12. He's already half the way there. So it did make me scratch my head, and that might be something I have to try. That's really smart. I'd like to know if anybody else has tried it out there.
So what I really like about this is it's not that dramatic drop and then having to slowly go back up. It's more of like a smooth transition or a smoother transition that seems to me to more mimic what would happen in nature.
Yeah.
Okay, so this brings me to my last question,
Yes.
which is in nature, we're talking about mimicking nature. In nature, when the days get shorter, I don't imagine more PPFD coming from the sun. I do kind of imagine it getting a little bit less. So why do we want to jump an increase of PPFD in our grow tent or in our grow when it seems kind of counterintuitive to me? It doesn't seem like that's what nature would be doing.
Sure. Well, first off, we aren't doing exactly what nature's doing. If you look at indoor cannabis, it doesn't look like outdoor cannabis. If it does, the outdoor has been manipulated a lot. But yeah, we're not exactly mimicking. We're taking some cues from Mother Nature. But if you take your light meter outside, it gets pinned. I mean, the sunlight's pretty bright. The sunlight is tremendously bright. The plants are acclimated to it. But at the end part of harvest, they are still getting PPFD. And the important thing is that the experiments we're doing indoors is they can handle a lot of light right up till the end there. So we're really trying to go for something a little bit different than what you get outside.
So we're taking our cues from nature, like you said, but we're also kind of playing around with it and seeing how we can maximize what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Nature doesn't have 1,400 ppm of CO2 going on.
Okay, true that.
But what about you? How do you handle DLI? How do you handle the flip? Do you slowly dial your lights down? Do you raise the intensity? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and check out the other couple videos YouTube's recommended for you.